traditions. So the schools have a lot of role to play. Of course, the families also do. If the child is being nurtured in a family where it is taboo to speak Yoruba or Igbo or Hausa, then we have a problem. So even if the school is doing anything, it won't be able to get a consolidation of what the school is doing, a reinforcement of what the school is doing at home. The home is best known as the center for informal education. The school will do the formal education, the homes will do informal education. A lot of the oral tradition, a lot of our cultural morals and values, if I get easily transmitted by the parents, by what they say, by what they do, by what they act. So those are the two critical areas for a revival of the African oral tradition.
But let's look at the most of these materials. They were transferred verbally, orally, from one generation to another. But this present generation, especially even at the family level, do they still have the mastery of these stories, these materials?
Yes, that is the unfortunate part. The parents themselves who ought to parent and teach the children, many of them don't know these traditions. Many of them don't know these values, so they don't even subscribe to it. But as part of the revive, they are in a position to, if I read some of this, there are books here all about that talk about this tradition. I think 2 programs ago, last program indeed, you brought something from Chinua Achebe. A lot of the Chinua Achebe books, No Longer Tease, Things Fall Apart, are rooted in the oral traditions, African versions, Igbo edition. If you're able to read some of Soyinka's book, and you made a reference to one, and you're able to read Amos Tutuola, you're able to read quite a large number of even the books. Diofagua in Yoruba, the various series of Diofagua, J.F. Odujo, or even the literature in English, the one reading in English, but situated in the Yoruba culture. You're going to learn a lot of those values there. But when you don't read them, and you have not been told by your own parent, then you are not in a position to transmit to anybody. And then there is going to be a gap that has to be filled. But I think there are enough good books now that they are storybooks, they are literature books, but they are situated in a particular culture, which is African.
Well, many people will believe that if you want to hide something from an African man, put it inside a book. Does that not say a lot about our poor reading culture?
Yes, that is what we must rediscover. Happily now, quite a number of these books you can get electronic versions. So, since most people now spend a lot of their time on social media and so on, they can download quite a number of these books and read them. If they are unable to access the hard copies. Sometimes when you read the biographies of great people, biography of great people like Awolowo, Azikwe, Sardauna, Tafawa Balewa, and quite a large number of people, and you see how they grew, you are exposed to the cultural environment where they develop. You could see the differences, you can see the commonalities, you can see the things that make them to become what they become. Because that wasn't easy for them, you know. Awolowo went through Wesley College, where he couldn't finish. He went to cocoa business, where he got bankrupted. His house was sold in his presence and things like that. And yet he became what he became because of the kind of training he had, the ability to withstand hardship, the ability to engage in self-sacrifice, the ability to be godly, to work very, very hard, to change your own fortune by the hard work of your hand. As the Yorubas will say, "Ateleweni ki tanije," which means your hand cannot deceive you. If you work hard, you will know you are working hard. If you're lazy, you will know you are lazy. If you work hard, you're going to get good result. If you're lazy, then you're going to get no result. All of this, if you take as if when he was a boxer, he did a stowaway, so you know that reaching the top requires a lot of effort, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of communalism. I mean, building relationship with people who can come to assist you or who can come to help you in future. So it is important that we must prove everybody wrong that we are anti-books, that we don't like reading books. We must read books, particularly when they relate to our culture or the African culture and the African tradition. I call it African culture and African tradition because a lot of the traditions are common. Yeah, there are variations, but they have a common base that whichever African society you are in, you will find this. So we must begin to read. If we can't read the hard copy, then we must read the soft electronic copies.
So social media can also play a role in this matter.
In fact, I believe properly oriented, they can play the greatest role, because today the followership, the consumption of social media, if you look at the percentage, if you compare with even the number in schools, the number reading books, the number buying newspapers, even sometimes listen to electronic station, you find that the social media has a huge following. So we can use it. It could be properly used. And I would wish that government will understand it. The various ministries of education will appreciate it. The various universities, and particularly those universities that have African languages, African culture, sociology, and things like that, they can use the social media to teach those who had not been exposed to African culture. They can get them to be exposed to it, particularly as you know that it has a visual dimension. So it's not only audio, it is also visual. And I think that what you are doing is also part of it, particularly as I know it's also on social media. And a lot of people can access it, a lot of people can record it, a lot of people can go back to it, a lot of people can now say, oh, I have missed. Let me quickly breach what I have missed. And then we'll find that the social media is a veritable platform for rebirth, the renewal of African culture, African traditions, and African beliefs.
Dr. Yemi Farumbi is on the program this morning. We'll be right back after this break. I am Toyeshe Oyebode. Please stay with us.
This songs of freedom is all I ever had.
Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy, cause none of them can stop the time. Redemption is here. It's at our doorsteps. Are we ready to embrace the freedom? We always believe that redemption is far away. We always believe that redemption is aloof. But lo and behold, there is hope. Redemption or freedom starts from the mind. Once your mind is built, once your mind is strong, the world is at your feet. Oh, Mama Africa. Okay, Dr. Yemi Farumbi is still with me in the studio this morning. Dr. Yemi Farumbi, let's quickly look at what elder statesmen like you are doing to ensure that we have our curriculum reinvented so that we can accommodate who we are into our curriculum and decolonize it.
Well, everybody begins to realize that we have to look at the curriculum, and people are talking more that we shouldn't allow our own language to die. We are beginning to talk about teaching at various levels in our own languages. But two things that just occurred to me from what you read and from the music you play: the role of music and film in the reacculturation and the reawakening of the African. The film, particularly because it has a huge following. The Nollywood, for example, it has a huge following not only in Nigeria but across Africa. You go to East Africa and West Africa and you find that Nollywood is dominating. But it will be important for the producers and the directors of Nollywood film to realize that they are a veritable means of reawakening, reacculturation of the African. There are things that they ought to know. For example, if you take an American film, a Western film, you see the cowboy riding and so on. When you study a typical cowboy film, the cowboy will always be defending the underdog. It will always be defending the lonely woman, the persecuted woman. It will always be fighting the sheriff that is breaking laws and so on. So you find that at the end of the story, even when he had rescued the woman or assisted her, the woman now falls in love with him, the man will not take advantage. You see him riding his horse into the horizon. These are values being taught. If you take a typical American war film, the American will never lose in any war film. You may get a colonel that is captured by the Germans or by whatever forces. You're going to find that at the end of the day, that one single American officer that will be captured is going to maneuver, manipulate, escape, trap the overwhelming opposition and eliminate them. It's the way they built the American value, their commitment, their belief in their own strength, in their own invincibility, and things like that. If you take an Indian film, no matter how romantic the scene is, you will not see a kissing scene in an Indian film. There are certain values that they protect. You will see that most of their films are in their own languages with a subtitling in English or French or Arabic, depending on. You see that most of the dresses they wear, their own saris and so on. They use that to market, to promote, to enhance their own value. That is what we must do. We must not always in Nollywood revert to the scenes that will frighten the child, the scenes that will show that one person is killing the person, somebody is envious of the other, he puts mercy
on the rituals,
or on using medicine to kill and so on. Those are not the high points of our culture. The high points of our culture are hard work, respectability, good neighborliness, self-discipline, godliness, and things like that. We must be able to preach all of this. The second thing I got from the interjection you did musically is the role of music. Actually, music is a ready-made tool to be used, music and poetry. And that is why when the Chinese Revolution started, Mao Zedong, they use song, they use literature, they use poetry to sell the new values to the people. So it will look as if they are being forced to do something. They are in the process of entertainment. They are entertaining themselves, but subtly, without a hard sell. People have a tendency to resist a hard sell. Like, oh, change must begin with you. They say, what the hell are you talking about? I say, I'm hungry, you're talking about change. I say, I can't pay my children's fees, and things like that. But if you build it into place, into song, then you find that they begin to sing it without knowing, and in their subconscious mind, these values are ingrained and they never forget it. But of course, what do we have these days? Our music is a copycat of what the Americans are doing, the bang, 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 and sometimes that you cannot make meaning out of the lyrics, you cannot get values out of the lyrics. I mean, take a song like Kete Kete by Ebenezer Obey. You know, by the time you finish listening it, you get a story. You learn something from it. Take any of those old artists, you will find that their lyrics have a message that when you are dancing and you are singing it will take you some time before you realize, those things will sink into you. So we have to do a reawakening of even our musicians. I mean, everybody's in chasing prosperity now, or sometimes you have such a repetition of just one word all through the song and then you start wondering what it is, or sometimes it is sheer vulgarity or sheer exposure to sexual immorality and things like that.
Is that not what is marketable in our society today?
Yes, we think that is marketable. We think that is what the society wants. But have you given them an alternative and see whether it will not sell? I mean, one of the greatest artists in this country is Fela Ransome Kuti. Fela Anikulapo Kuti. He used to be Fela Ransome Kuti. If you study the trajectory of his music, it became heavy political, based on Nkrumahism, trying to reawake in all our minds African values, African tradition, African morals, African culture. And he remained popular till his death. He wasn't, he had abandoned the immorality of the earliest days of Ayawani, Ejalofe, Odoruka, Boruka. He had abandoned that towards the end, and he became elevated. The reggae singer, the Peter Tosh, the Jimmy Cliff, and of course, all of them.
The Majek.
You know that all their songs had a message that tells the African, you are not an underdog. It tells the Africa you have a history. It tells the Africa you have a culture. It tells the Africa you have values that are superior to all these values that you are emulating. And yet you were bought. They were patronized. When my dad passed away, you saw the kind of, how would I call it, outpour of feelings and sympathy. So we just think that we are giving them what they want. No. They are making a choice out of our repetitive rubbish. Give them something good. You will see the difference. And if we do this, we're going to find that in addition to the schools, particularly the film industry, the music industry, because there is no week, there will be no, forget about COVID, if there will be no COVID, there will be a reception on Thursday, there will be one on Friday, there will be one on Saturday, they go to church and dance, a lot of music, and if this music have messages about who we are, messages about how we used to be strong, messages about, oh, you have to be a good man, you have to be a good person in building relationship. That you will know. Let me take a song like Lean on Me, for example. It's not Nigeria, but when you listen to it, it says, lean on me because I am strong today. Because tomorrow, you'll be strong and I'll be weak. Then I lean on you. It's teaching you, walk together. You cannot do it alone. You cannot walk alone. You must interrelate. And that is the basic foundation of the African, that we live a communal life, not an individualistic, not a materialistic life. So I think we can also see how we can re-educate, redirect. Not all of them will accept, but some of them will do. If you have 20% of the musicians, 20-30%, if you have 40-50% of the films, when I used to teach film and things like that at UI, the critical thing to teach is the values. Yes, it is okay, you look at the technicality, you look at the depth of focus, the depth of field, you look at the color balance and things like that. But the critical thing is, what message are you passionate? Are you making the African the underdog? Are you saying that our culture is inferior? Are you saying that in the face of the Western civilization, the African civilization must crumble? These are values that we can use the film industry to recreate and to reawaken.
It seems this critical thinking that you just mentioned are no longer are not in our movie industry presently. Should we blame the writers of our stories, or because we don't really have stories to tell?
It's not that we don't have stories to tell. We have a lot of stories to tell. I think the problem is about the structure of the industry, the funding and everything. This is a Nollywood industry where one man is the producer, is the director, is the screenwriter, is the story writer, at the end is the lead actor. You know, there is no professionalization, there is no specialization, along specific line. You are a director, you are trained to be one. You are an actor, you are trained to be one. You are a decor, a set designer, a lighting person, a music person. That is your specialty. If you are a writer, you are just a writer and things like that. But the writer wants to also be seen as having produced or having directed. So that creates the problem. But the major problem is funding. Funding, because this is the only industry. When you compare with Bollywood, you compare with Hollywood, Nollywood is entirely dependent on the marketers. And the marketers are not creative people. The marketers just only want to sell and make money. And like you said, they only give the public what they want. not what they need. So they suffocate the market with repetitive rubbish, things that will not enhance our values, things that will not enhance our lives, because they are the one funding. In fact, sometimes they impose on the producer and director and say, before I take your film, you have to introduce this actor or this actress. And you know that some of these actors that act themselves, they act their life. So they play the same roles wherever they are, particularly if they are comedians. They play the same role. Only very few of them, in fact, are great artists. A great actor must be able to act the high, the low, anything. When you take Ogumila, for example, even he can act the king, he doesn't always act it. He will act the servant, he will act the hunter, and so on. They were great. So, but when you have the artist that once you see the film, you know what is the kind of role he's going to play. Oh, he's going to play the Babalawo there. No, he's going to play the pastor there. Oh, no, he's going to play the saboteur. You know, they are typecasted, as it were. And this is because the marketer insists. So it's part of the problem. If you look at the funding, if they can access funds, if you're in Britain, you go to the British Arts Council, you can access funds that will now be attracting the kind of interest that Kid Baba Salah with Orumuru and things like that. So if we are able to restructure the industry, fund it properly, they will be able to get them to restore the African values, to reawaken Africans on the essence of holding to that which is there, rather than copying what is not there.
The African traditional drama was also very potent in the past, especially talk about the Alarinjo Theatre, the Hubas Ogun days. They also projected African values, with their stage plays and their movable theatre. Can we still reinvent as such a structure to fit into the present modern system?
Well, it might be a little bit difficult, but what we can certainly reinvent is the stage theater. It may not be based on the Alarinjo concept of meet us in a primary school or meet us in a church hall, but we ought not to allow the stage to die. It should not be limited to the universities alone. I used to produce stage production, and I know that in that cultural center I would do a Friday afternoon, Friday night, Saturday 3 shows, Sunday 3 shows. In fact, there was a time at almost in Agbowo there, I was forced on a Sunday to do a 4th show because they learned from it. You should recall on stage. I remember that play was watched by Shibola Ike. And when that lady acted, and people were almost weeping. And he went and I think gave special gift to her. I mean, we can revive that. But also we can revive that using the film or the video medium. It will make it easier, it will make it more perfect, it will make it more real, because you can now record in various locations and so on. The critical thing is that, one, the storyline must be African. The location must be authentic and genuine. The costume must be right. Then the acting must be perfect. Directing must be okay. The music backing. The music must not give up the story. The music must be a background music. That is what music is for in film. But most of our films, when you listen to the music, you get the storyline, because they become competitive even with the storyline. So if we are able to professionalize it, then you find we can put the Alarinjo Theatre in video format, and it will still be as popular as it used to be.
And now that we even have the social media that can also project.
Fantastic. That can, in fact, do it. You can even do filmlets. It doesn't now have to be long 1 hour. It could be even 10 minutes. It could be 50 minutes. It could be 30 minutes. You could do it. You can even do your series now on social media, and given the high quality of some of the cameras in some of those handsets, I've seen people now using that to produce the edit, because you can even learn the art of editing online using your handset, and then you can begin. We can have multiple sources of these socially relevant, socially useful, socially profitable drama, rather than the repetitive rubbish, which is just sometimes a copy of foreign culture.
You are a veteran when it comes to broadcasting. In radio, do we still have good radio drama?
Not much. Only very few stations do radio drama these days. You remember the days of Alawa and Sheki Sheki, on Radio Nigeria. In fact, Village Headmaster started on radio. We don't have much, and I think the reason, of course, is funds. The stations themselves are looking for sponsors. They're looking for advertisers. If they get a sponsor for a good radio drama, we find some that is done either by the Catholic JPGC or the Population Commission and so on. We find some, but it's no longer common. Yeah, and I think it's just funding. And because there are no sponsors, the producer don't spend much effort on it again.
If we look at Nigeria especially, we have many, in every state, we have the Ministry of Information, Culture and Tourism, even at the national level, at the federal level. Are they doing enough to reposition the country?
I think they are there in name. Absolutely in name. The Council of Arts and Culture that runs the Cultural Center in Ibadan, when last was there a show, a cultural performance, a cultural display in the Cultural Center that had decayed, had vegetated into irrelevance. The ministries are just there in name. Tourism, sometimes I believe they don't understand what tourism means. They don't know what is cultural tourism. They don't know what is geographical or physical tourism, vegetational tourism, religious tourism. They don't understand it. So they're just there in name. And when you look at it, they are always absolutely poorly funded or not funded.
It's been another wonderful edition. I have to release Dr. Yemi Farounbi at this juncture because he has another engagement this morning. Dr. Farounbi, thank you very much for coming this morning.
Thank you very much. I believe that this your campaign will catch fire, and that some other people will see the beauty in what we are doing. A rediscovery of ourselves, a reawakening of ourselves will make us a better country.
We are looking forward to another edition next week, another interesting topic. Please stay with us on King 103.9 FM. Toyeshe Oyebode is my name. On Monday, I'll be back on Issues of the Moment, God willing. Have a wonderful day.
here to